Hey, how are you? Matt Heisler here, Vanderbilt Properties, and just wanted to share a series that I'm thinking about doing for my fellow realtors, and it's about the scams that are out there. So I ended up where someone tried to scam me the other day. They come in as a legit lead, and I mean I don't really understand their end game. I'm not really sure how they're going to get any money out of this, but what you really want to do is just sort of understand, how they typically try to insert themselves into, your workflow and waste your time. So I do from time to time like to go back and forth with them and sometimes waste their time, which I did here. So if you stick around, then you're going to see that I have some fun with them at the end. So, but basically, I do want to go over how the lead came in and then the kinds of things that you'll want to watch out for when they do come in. So this lead came in. He said he wanted a CMA on some land he was selling in Worcester. Don't get a lot of queries about land, so right there I'm sort of interested in it. Obviously, this person found me off the internet, so I know from past experience I got to check this out. But the email looked okay, like it was his name, but then it said 001, which is a little weird, but it's not that weird, right? And then the phone number came in also, so it's good that they have a phone number, right? So we all know about the WhatsApp app scams where they won't do the phone number. But I called the phone number because I call all the leads, and I got the Google Voice message. So that told me that it was an internet phone, not a cell phone. Most people don't put that phone. Okay, so now I've got this, not a typical query and not really a typical phone. So already I'm just sort of paying attention to see, what's going on. So um, I asked him for an address of the land because the original query didn't have the land address, and that's fine, and the first response that he gives me is actually about how he can't talk to me on the phone at all. So, this is a bad sign. No two ways about it that he does not want to talk on the phone. Uh, but we'll try to see what we can do here through text messaging and see what happens here. So he does give me the address. I have a different address posted here, but you get the idea. And then I spent, 10 minutes researching a lot. I obviously didn't spend a lot of time because I'm already starting to think maybe this isn't legit. And then I asked him whether or not he had thought about developing it. And I asked that because anyone who owns land for any period of time has probably thought about developing it. But in this case, of course, he says that he's never thought about developing it and that he doesn't know anything about it, which is really weird, right? And so, now I'm very sure that that this is fraud. But I decide I'm going to have a little fun with him. So he asks me for how much it's worth, and so I tell him that it's probably worth 100K, which it wasn't. It's only worth like 20. But I tell him if we get a variance, it's probably worth 200. Now, usually, if you give someone, that kind of discrepancy between 100 and 200, they have all sorts of questions. Not here, right? So here he just says, well, I want to put it on at a distressed price. Notice he says distressed price, which of course is a typo, suggesting English is not his first language, and he does that twice, so it's not just a mistake. And I tell them to put it on at 50. But one of the things that you will find out when people are trying to impersonate other people online, and again, the email address and the public record for the owner, they mostly lined up, right? So, if that's the only way that you're checking, a lot of times that's not enough. But this fire sale thing, this is almost always fraud. So, but I tell him that we'll get 20 offers in the first 10 days and half will be cash. I mean, I'm really just enjoying myself at this moment. And of course, he's excited about that. But not only does he want a distressed price, he wants it on the market as soon as possible. So I tell him I can have it on by the end of day, but I don't really want to write a whole bunch of contracts here and then send it to him so that he can sign it. Like, what do I do with that? He's not who he is. So what I tell him is that I want to write it up with the standard commission rate. And again, just a final check here. Anyone who's doing this kind of stuff is going to ask what the commission rate is. He doesn't even bother. He just says, no problem, all set, right? And then I tell him all I need to do to go forward is a copy of his driver's license. Now, I know that this is fraud, so I know that he does not have a copy of the actual owner's driver's license. And at that moment, immediately, he just clamps right down. He says he doesn't want to share. He doesn't have it. He doesn't feel safe sharing it, but he'll share it with me later. So, but this isn't going to happen. So then, so then I get very creative and I said, no problem. I said, send me $1,000 as a deposit on the transaction. If you Venmo me a deposit as good faith, then we'll get started and I'll deduct that from my commission at close. And so, obviously if it's fraud, they're not going to be interested in this at all. And he's not. And so basically he asked me, shouldn't I just get paid at close? And I said, sure, but for a remote deal, I usually get a driver's license, or I usually meet with people if it's a local deal, and I can do any of those things, but I need to do one of them, And then he quickly exits and says that he's out. So I think the key here is do your due diligence, make sure that email and phone number are legit. If it's an internet phone, then you need to know that that's a red flag, right? If they just want to talk on WhatsApp, that's a red flag. But if they're looking to sell quickly, looking to list immediately, and you haven't done any of the normal stuff that you will do with a seller, if they don't care about commission, then you know that this person is probably not the rightful owner of whatever property that they're talking about. And you can stop spending time with them. So I did have some fun with this guy here. I don't recommend that people do that. At the end of the day, our information is out there on the public web. People can find out where I live and work and my phone number and all this stuff. So when you are that public about where your whereabouts are, it's not necessarily a good idea to go back and forth with these guys. But most of the time, once it gets difficult, they're just going to go away and see if they can find another sucker. And hopefully, it won't be you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you have a scam that you want to share with me and you'd like to see it presented to the world. We could do a joint con call and check it out. Hope to talk to you soon. Bye.